Hello there, YouTube. Devin here again. Today, back with the wonderful chair. As you can see, it's been a while. Been a good chair for quite a while. You and your matching twin. That's a foot and a half to my right. So today we're going to go over some of the markings and ways to distinguish your M95, as well as how to take apart the bolt, how to remove and take apart the bolt, which is something I've been promising to do on a lot of videos and haven't done, so I should probably go through and start doing those. So, without further ado, we're going to get into how you could tell what version of M95 you have. Okay, well, I'm going to go right off here and tell you that pretty much almost all of the ones you're going to find have been through Bulgaria's hands at some points, but not all of them are actual Bulgarian M95s. So Bulgaria bought a ton of M95s after World War I, and before World War I, and during World War I, and after World War I when they were sold off to everybody as part of war reparations. Bulgaria would buy pretty much most of those war reparation M95s from pretty much everybody. So we'll go over kind of a few ways to kind of spot what version of M95 you have. First of all, if you have a long rifle, it will have a 30.1 inch barrel, very, very long as you can see here, and they will only be underslung. So that means the sling will only go underneath the rifle. It will not be side slung. Now, the second, there's technically three versions of M95. So there's the long rifle, then there's the Stützen, and then there's the carbine. The only difference between the Stützen and the carbine is whether it's underslung or side slung. So that's it. The Stützens were just short infantry rifles. They would have been underslung, alright, and the carbines would have been side slung for cavalry because it's more comfortable to carry the rifle on its side than it is to carry it on the bottom with its magazine bumping into you and everything like that. So, but unfortunately, most of the carbines have been, through whatever process, updated to Stützens, so they're near impossible to find. So most of what you're going to find, the most common ones are actually Stützens. And then there's a couple different manufacturers. The most common ones are going to be Steyr and Budapest, and you can tell which one made which by the fact that it'll say, like this one, it says Steyr right there, and it says M95. They will all say that, except for the manufacturer there, and it'll say M95, except for one, an actual Bulgarian contract M95 that they would have bought before World War I. Those ones you could tell because they have the big Bulgarian lion crest up here rather than Steyr, and they will have a gas vent hole drilled into the bolt sleeve. So that would be if a case ruptures, then the gas will vent upwards rather than backwards towards the shooter. That's the easiest way to tell an actual Bulgarian contract one. They're actually pretty rare. Alright. So the Steyr and Budapest would have made most of them, and they will say Steyr Budapest. So the other ones that are actually pretty rare, but you can find them, are made by Brno in Czechoslovakia, because from 1918 to 1920, Brno made about 5,000 of these because it was kind of still their standard rifle, and they would use them until they would come out with the VZ-24. And then after that, they would have been pretty much sold all to Bulgaria, where Bulgaria would have updated them and whatever. So the next thing you want to look for is if it's been updated to the Spitzer cartridge or not. The original chambering for these is 8x50 rimmed, not to be confused with 8x50 rimmed Lebel. So, and whether you could tell that or not would be rather these markings here on the barrel itself. So on the chamber of the barrel rather than on the receiver. So the receiver will have its own kind of proof mark. As you can see there's the Austrian Eagle, and then the barrel will have its own set of proof marks. Oftentimes the proof marks will be covered up by the new cartridge update, because everyone was basically like, it's a dead empire, nobody cares about these proof marks don't really mean anything anymore, they're kind of useless. And this is kind of the thickest part of the chamber anyway, so you don't really want to end up damaging it or pressing it in or anything like that. So it was just easier to stamp it up here. The only ones that didn't mar the markings really were the Austrians themselves, the ones that stayed in Austrian service. Unfortunately, most of the Austrian ones you'll find will be short rifles. They will be Stutzens. So this is an actual Austrian long rifle that was updated. You can tell that here because it has the simple S. So this S here, as you can see, is very, very simple. And then there's what's called the fancy S. And the fancy S will have little tails on either end of the S here. And it'll usually be marked right over these markings. And that's what Bulgaria did when they upgraded them to the 8x56 rimmed from the 8x50 rimmed. So Bulgaria will usually put the fancy S, and they'll be over these proof marks. Austria had the simple S, and it'll usually be moved further forward. You can find it over the proof marks, so it just kind of depends on the day, I guess. And if you see a big H on that, that is a Hungarian updated one. Hungarian updated ones that stayed in Hungarian service would have a big H. And Brno would also do the Spitzer upgrade before selling all of theirs off in the 30s to Bulgaria. So that's kind of a way to tell. Now here's the thing. All of the ones that have the S or the H's on them have been upgraded to 8x56, but some of them were upgraded to 8x56 and for some reason didn't get the stamp. So the way to tell if it has been upgraded for sure or not is try to chamber an 8x56 rim. If you can, it has been updated. If you can't, it has not been updated, and it's in the original cartridge still. So that's basically the easiest way to tell what rifle you have. So another way to tell is, like, a lot of other videos don't tell you exactly when your rifle was made because they never really dated them. The serial numbers, as you can see here, like this one, which is 4015N, they would do a basically 10,000 serial block, so 0001 to 9,999, and then they would put an A, and then they'd do the same thing and have a B after it, and then the same thing and then have a C after it. And after they got done making, all of those and they went all the way through Z, they would just start over again. So they didn't have anything. The bolts are also unmarked. The only people that really marked their bolts were the Bulgarians. The Bulgarians would later go through like post World War II basically, and they would electropencil the bolts. And the bolts were supposed to be hand fitted to the guns, but as for part of war reparations, a lot of times the bolts are missing. So it's very hard to find one with a matching bolt, and the ones with the matching bolt are going to be a lot smoother. This one is an unmatching bolt, and you can tell because it's pretty rough. So it will go, and it does work a lot better with lube. These guns do work a lot better when they're well maintained. So just so you know. But it's really, really hard to date your rifle. Kind of a way to tell if it was made during early World War I or pre-World War I. Late World War I or post-World War I is by the wood. So this one here, you could actually see two different kinds of wood on it. The lower stock here is walnut, which would be indicative of pre-World War I or early World War I. Okay? It's a very tight grain, very good wood for making rifle stocks. It doesn't warp very easily. It can take a lot of abuse. It's very dense. The grain pattern's super tight on it. It's what a lot of firearms were made out of, was walnut. But as they ran out of walnut, they switched to elm, which is a much softer wood, and you could tell this rifle has an elm handguard. All right, it's not as smooth of a finish. You could actually see the kind of roughness. You could run your fingernail, and you could hear all the like dips and grooves in the wood, and that's because this is an elm handguard, and the elm handguards kind of came out mid to late World War I, and they were used through World War I. They had full stocks in elm. All right, this one unfortunately only has the elm handguard up here. And but that's kind of a way to date your rifle, if it is in fact all original, is if it has, you could tell it was kind of made late World War I, if it has the elm handguard on it, or if it's all walnut, it's usually pretty early. And after kind of World War I and towards World War II, they would switch to beech. which is a very bright blonde wood. It's very easy to point out against the other two because it's so bright and yellow colored basically. So I should get my other one. I said that in the last video too. I should get my other M95 and show you guys that one. That's a Bulgarian one. So it's actually an Austrian made and then sold to Bulgaria, and Bulgaria retrofitted it. So, but that one's much nicer than this one. But this one's a lot more rare because it's an Austrian long rifle. So it's kind of cool to show this one. This one's more World War I correct too, though, even though it has the Spitzer upgrade, which means it's basically just cheaper to shoot, and it recoils more. So, but we'll show you how to take apart the bolt now. So how you remove the bolt from your M95 is you want to take the trigger, you want to push it forward, and then you could just, first of all, you want to have your bolt back, pull the trigger forward, bolt will come out and it will snap shut. It will decock itself, all right, which is kind of good. So now we can get the whole rifle out of the way. Okay, and if you wanted to put it back into the rifle, you have to grab the two lugs and you have to recock it. Okay, so you see that there, how it stays. Mine's actually, this one here is pretty nice. It tend to stay pretty easy, and then you gotta slide it into the grooves. These guide protrusions here got to slide into the grooves, and the whole thing will go back into the gun and lock into place just fine. But we don't want that here today, so we're gonna decock it. There we go. And now what you want to do to start disassembling the bolt is you want to grab a hold of it, okay, and you want to pull the the cocking piece out and put the safety on. So the safety is this little flag will be in the up position, as you can see there, kind of against the bolt body here. And what you want to do is you want to start rotating counterclockwise. And you can see how the firing pin there is starting to recess in. Okay, just keep rotating. You'll see when it comes around, it'll want to snap kind of back down, just like that. That's okay. Just pull it out a little bit and keep rotating, and then just keep on rotating, and eventually it'll break free. And this is the hardest part of taking the M95 bolt apart, basically. So, and putting it back together. And there you go. See, it's free. So there's your little cocking piece right there. Okay, so there you can see the end of the firing pin. It's very threaded, which is what the cocking piece attaches to. And now we can continue on with the disassembly of the bolt. You want to grab the bolt head and the extractor, and you want to pull. Okay, you just, so it looks like it's cocked, but after that you just keep pulling, and you wiggle a little bit, and boom, there you go. There's your extractor. These are very prone to breaking, so do not lose these and do not damage these. Be very gentle with them because they are still out there, but they're only getting more and more expensive, so be very careful with your extractor. Then what we have is our firing pin and our bolt body, and you can see how it works here with its helical cuts, which is what makes the bolt, when it runs into battery, it goes in and it goes, got cam tracks inside of it there, inside the bolt body, that when you push it forward like that, it rotates the bolt upwards like that, locks it into place. So to further disassemble this, now if yours is really finely fitted, you probably won't be able to see that there's a cap here, but as you can see on mine, there is a cap here, and what you want to do with that, and be very careful because there is a spring in here. The firing pin spring is in the bolt here. So what you want to do is you want to start unscrewing this, but you want to be very careful. Keep your palm against this piece right here, because once you unthread this enough, the firing pin and firing pin spring are going to want to shoot right out of the bolt body here and across the room, just like that. So then you have our firing pin and firing pin spring, and you can go about now doing your basic maintenance, and reassembly is much the same. So you just put the spring back over this, put that into the bolt body. You can see there it sticks right through. Alright, you want to put the cap on, alright, and then you want to push down, rotate, once you get a couple turns on it, it'll go together real easy. So I don't know why people are afraid to take their military surplus rifles apart, because I frankly find it pretty easy to do this. It's not hard by any means. So, and now what you want to do is you want to make sure, alright, so if you look down the bolt, it might be kind of hard to see. You can see there's a flat side milled into it, and if you look at the firing pin here, firing pin right there has a flat side. You want to make sure your firing pin lines up with that flat side, okay? And then there's also those helical lugs inside the bolt there. And you want to make sure the bolt lugs, you probably can't see those, you can see a little bit of them there, lines up. And you want to make sure the cap stays in alignment too. So you want to make sure that that flat side lines up with the flat side in the bolt, obviously. And then you want to make sure that the lugs all line up as well. And it may take some twisting and finagling to get it to work. So all right, so there we go, we're in. And so you just kind of twist it and finagle it and get it to do its own thing. So then you want to pull it back out just a little bit. Usually I like to over rotate it a little. And then you could slide your extractor in. Okay. So again, be very, very careful with your extractor because you don't want to break it. Okay. Make sure your extractor's over the bolt, and then you want to decock your bolt now. There you go. All right, and then make sure your safety's in the right spot, because if you have it too far forward like that and you start screwing on the cocking piece, it'll be stuck like that. Your gun won't fire, and if you have it up all the way, you can't screw it on all the way. So then you want to just make sure you kind of hold it and it's in the right spot. And you start screwing on your cocking piece, and you could get quite a few turns on it like this, but eventually you're gonna hit that little screw that holds in your safety. And then this is where you can, once again, pull your cocking piece out, engage your safety, as you just saw me do there, and you keep screwing clockwise until the firing pin is flush with the back of the cocking piece. Keep going, just keep going, and you can over travel this, so like I did there, and you see how it's not lined up. That's all right, because you could tell it's over traveled because the firing pin is sticking out. So you just walk it back a little bit, and it'll snap right into place, just like that. Okay, and then you can pull it out just a little bit, disengage your safety, lower it down, reset your bolt. Now, if you're having trouble and yours isn't really good at staying open like mine, you could go right on the top of the bolt here. You can put an American dime in there, or sometimes a nickel. It depends on how good your head spacing is and stuff like that. So make sure you could put something in there though to hold it open. Okay, and we'll bring the rifle back into frame here. Right. And I like to help it out a little bit just by holding the trigger forward, because that depresses the sear and the little safety thing here that keeps you from being able to pull the bolt out when you're just like normally running it. So I like to pull the trigger forward, and then you just engage those two little guide ribs into the channel, and then you can push it home, and there you go, you're all set. One fully disassembled and inspected M95 bolt, and fully reassembled just like that. It's pretty easy to do. They were able to teach illiterate soldiers how to do this, and hopefully you learned how to figure out what kind of relative time period your M95 is from, and what kind of country it went through at some point. So hopefully you're able to tell that based on what you have, and I'd very much like to hear where all of your M95s are and what kind of cool markings you have on yours. So if you have some super rare ones, there are some super rare ones out there, like there are Finnish marked ones and some Italian marked ones and other stuff. Those are incredibly rare. And things like that. I'd really like to have a Finnish one. I really like Finnish firearms, so it'd be neat to have. But unfortunately I don't. Those are pretty rare. There was only like 2,000 of them that ever made it to Finland. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you do like this sort of thing. If you have any additional information to add or anything like that, I'm sure there's a lot out there. There's tons of depths you can go on this. This is just kind of a surface overview and everything like that. Kind of the last design of one of my favorite gun designers in the entire world. So and all that other good stuff. If you think I'm worth a contribution, there is a link to my PayPal in the About tab of my channel. All of that money goes to me if you happen to have PayPal. If you don't have PayPal or can't afford it, that's totally fine. Just keep watching and supporting the channel in any way you possibly can, or any way you think I'm worth anyways. So, but those contributions do go a long ways to supporting the channel, especially now that it's not really today, but hopefully here in the near future going to warm up a little bit, and I plan on getting a lot of these guns out to shoot. So it would mean a lot to me to buy more ammo, because it means I could do more shooting videos, and ammo is kind of expensive for these. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.